been lit, boy. Everything goes.
We now return you to regular programming.
All right, we have a special guest tonight on the Everything Goes podcast from the Dallas, Texas area. We have Jeff Cavanaugh, one of the greatest sports commentators and talkers down there in the area from the 105.3. The Fan, the G-Bag Nation.
How you doing, Jeff?
Oh, I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Jeff, how tough is it right now to do a 5-hour podcast or just a radio show? And there's not a lot of sports. I mean, there is stuff to talk about, but how tough has it been for you guys with the coronavirus and everything going on to prepare and do a full show?
I think it's really challenging, especially right now, because it's not just coronavirus. Like, you've got coronavirus, so you don't have sports.
Mm-hmm.
But also, almost every major sports story right now involves something that could be viewed as by listeners as political.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Whereas, like, there's certain things that we're talking about right now a lot, like racism and equal rights and and social justice, which I don't view those things as political. I view them as like human decency. But
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
we have a lot of listeners that are like, "Oh, you're so far to the left," and you're saying, I'm like, no, I'm not endorsing candidates here. I'm just talking about what Mike Gundy said, or so all your sports stories and perceived politics are all so intertwined right now.
Well, it seems like a tough time, too, because no matter what you say, if you're not on the side of what's going on, you're labeled as something. We're up here, we're Christians, and it's not that we don't believe what's going on it's very important, but we're just raised that all lives to us it matters, and it's a tough situation because we know what's going on in the world. We're not blind to it. We love everybody, but that's just not enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think I've reached a point where for the first 10 years of my broadcast career, I would be really, really careful with topics, and I never wanted to offend anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to. Like, I'll offend somebody with a sports take, no problem. But outside of the sports realm, I never wanted to offend anybody, and I think we've reached a tipping point now where that's almost not an option.
And that's kind of how we felt. I want to say maybe 2 podcasts ago, we tried addressing it, and I was even saying to him before this, we talk sports. If somebody doesn't like something, you kind of shake it off. It's funny, but like something like this, like we really have to make sure that we're saying the right things because it is an unperfect world, and we want to be able to show love in this world and not be hated.
Yeah. So I think generally speaking, my take on the world right now is believe people when they tell you about their human experience and do your part to be educated and try to make the world a better place. Is that balanced?
Yeah,
that's pretty balanced. Sounds pretty balanced to us over here.
Well, Jeff, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you. Like, how tough is it, especially someone in your situation? You're a big name. You're almost like you are like an icon celebrity point. I mean, people hear you by the thousands. How tough is it, like, if you do say something and someone does come at you on Twitter or on Facebook or on YouTube, how do you professionally deal with that? Or do you just, like, everyone wants Jerry Jones to say something now, but I think sometimes the best thing is silence.
I went with saying something. I've made my stance really clear on everything that's happening now, and I had to that makes it sound like this is brave or something, but no, I knew what was going to happen. That I knew that Twitter follower numbers were going to go down, and I was going to get a bunch of angry texts into the show saying I'm not going to listen anymore. And I just think we've reached a tipping point where that's what a lot of people have done. So many voices that you haven't heard speak about certain things in the world are now speaking about it because it feels like, to me, staying silent makes me complicit in some of the things that are wrong in the world because I have a platform where I can do something good.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And we've talked about that, too, several times. You see a lot of the big-name people that are on Twitter that have the huge followings. They have the platform where they could actually turn this around and, be a voice for the people. And it seems like, I don't want to say they refuse to do it, but it's like they're taking a different direction with it.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of people because, listen, one of the things is that people got jobs and
Mm-hmm.
they need their job and they need their paycheck. And I, in some ways I feel like a coward because I waited long enough to where now I think I am established enough that I can get a job.
Yeah.
If I need a job, I can get a job. And so I like, it's not like I think I'm risking a whole lot by letting my opinions on things in the world be known anymore, because it's like, no, I can do this. I could podcast. I could do what, like, and I think my employer has no problem with any of the things I'm saying, but it kind of took to that point because years ago I would have viewed it as, oh, dude, if I push away listeners and the ratings go down, I lose my job. Holy cow, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And it was just a matter of getting to the point where it was like, well, I don't care.
Yeah. What got you into the radio part of your career, Jeff?
Let's see. I was about to be fired from a Sprint store. Store manager. Thank you. Worked my way up to manager.
It's an accomplishment there.
Yep, I was about to get fired. And I actually, and this is the story, I think, in a lot of things around the world. It's who you know that helps you get an opportunity, and then you have to go kick ass.
Yeah.
So I happened to grow up with a couple of dudes in high school that their uncle had a weekend show on the station that I'm on right now. I've only worked at one radio station my whole life.
Wow.
So I had a buddy whose uncle had a Saturday show and went to his birthday party, and we were drinking beers and arguing about sports. And he's like, you know what just happened here? And I was like, yeah, I schooled your ass. he was like, no, it's called a segment. He was like, fill out an application. And I was like, application for what? And he was like, sports radio. And I'm like, what? I've never even thought that, like, what? There's only like 10 people in the market get that job. What are you talking about?
Well, you have one of the best gigs around. I mean, you have one of the most talked about teams in your area that you get to talk about every day as your job.
Oh, yeah. And so I filled out an application, and I got hired as a part-timer making $10 an hour answering phones. And then from answering phones, I learned how to run the board and play the commercials and all that. And then I learned how to engineer on press conferences with the board and push the dials up and down. And then they let me try a Saturday show, and then I was on the night show, and it just kind of bang, 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 bang. It kind of worked itself out. But yeah, because I mean, I grew up here. These are my teams.
Yeah,
and now
absolutely.
I'm a talk show host on the home of the Cowboys. Like,
Yeah, it's
how
amazing.
absurd is that?
That's awesome.
You know what's funny is I didn't even know about your radio station because up here, you don't get too many Cowboys radio stations. I actually stumbled upon you guys doing the draft the one year, and I was hooked ever since.
Sweet. I appreciate it.
How cool is that you get to talk to one of the best owners in the NFL? Is it intimidating at all to talk to Jerry and Steven and them?
It was at first. Not anymore, but it was at first. Like, I'd be like, I don't want to phrase a question in a way where they're going to like tell me to shut up or that I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
But Jerry has called into our show multiple times in the middle of a segment because he thought something we said was unfair or wrong.
Wow.
And when he does that, he forgets you can't cuss on the radio. Like, he called in once, and I want to say this was like 2 or 3 years ago, and Sean Lee had gotten an MRI after practice. Jerry didn't know that.
Oh man.
So we knew it because it popped up on Twitter. And so when he didn't know about it, we're talking about it like, oh man, Jerry doesn't even know. And then one of the guys, my buddy Mike Bassett, was on the show at the time. He's talking about, he's like, man, maybe he's just more of a figurehead now, and he doesn't really know what's going on. Then our producer's in our ear. We're live at the Rangers ballpark. Our producer's in our ear. He's like, Jerry's on the phone.
Oh,
what?
my God.
He's like, yeah, Jerry's on the phone. So we introduce him, and Jerry just comes on. He goes, okay, hold on, let me get it right.
Here it comes.
Well, I heard you guys on the radio, and you were talking about how I don't know what's going on out here. Yes, Sean Lee, nobody knew Sean Lee got an MRI except the trainer. And I'm on my way to talk to his ass right now.
Oh my God.
And then he says, and the rest of that you said about not knowing what's going on, that is bullshit. And he says that live. We're like, Jerry, okay, all right, okay.
You couldn't hit the dump button fast enough.
Yeah, got it dumped. But if you were streaming at the time, you got to hear it in all its glory.
That was an amazing impression, by the way.
Now I know we're short on. We have a limited time with you tonight because you have a lot going on. But since this season has been crazy as it's been, the Cowboys have a lot of challenges. New coaching staff, the COVID virus. You can't have hands-on practices. How do you see the season for the Cowboys turning out if you had to put a number on it right now?
So I think it's a challenge because you got a new coaching staff and you've got a quarterback who's on the franchise tag and doesn't like it. Yeah. So you're already not getting together. And even if you were, your quarterback probably wouldn't be there for the time being. Mm-hmm. But I do think if we know something about Dak, it's that work ethic's not a problem. So while he may not be taking part in their Zoom meetings and he's doing that to signify that he's not happy, I'm sure that he's working to know the offense and be ready to play and all that.
Yeah.
So, I think there's some challenges there with new coaching staff and the time that they will or won't have to actually prep in person. But I also think that they've got a really good roster, an offense that was really good last year that just added a freaking stud as the third wide receiver in CeeDee Lamb. So I actually, and with the Brandon Brooks torn Achilles yesterday for the Eagles.
That was tough for them.
I think the Cowboys have to be the favorite in the NFC East. I think Wentz versus Dak is a really good debate, but I think I'll take Dak. So I think you have the better quarterback. I know you have the better receivers. I think without Brandon Brooks, you got the better offensive line, and it's an offensive league. So, the Eagles are really good on their defensive front, but I think the Cowboys are better at the more important spots. I think there's a level of rejuvenation when you have a new coaching staff, especially when you had multiple people who were incompetent a year ago at their jobs. So, I think it's if I had to guess, I would say the two numbers I think most likely that they win is either 10 or 11 games, and they win the NFC East.
That's a very good prediction. Now, as Dallas fans, for you and my dad, obviously I'm a Saints fan, and I dealt something similar with the QB situation with Drew Brees, a couple years ago when he wanted a contract extension. But is it frustrating as a Dallas fan? I mean, Dak wants to get paid, and you want him to get paid. He's a good quarterback. But is it frustrating just waiting, like the constant waiting for him to constantly sign and just know that your team is a loaded team and can win that division?
Well, Jeff, let me ask you this too: if they franchise tag him this year, next year if he does it again, do you think he's done? Because the third tag's like $50-some million.
Yeah, third tag wouldn't be doable. So it can be frustrating, and part of the reason it's frustrating is because, as you guys said, 5-hour show every day, which means the Dak contract, we're gonna have to talk about it a lot, right?
Yeah.
And nobody's wrong. Jerry and Steven want to use the power of the Cowboys and all the benefits that come with it to try to get the deal they want. There's nothing Jerry likes more than negotiating. He's happy right now. He loves this. So Dak may not be happy. His agent may not be happy. Jerry's in heaven. He's negotiating. He's in the headlines. This is what he lives for. But it's just, it can be tough to talk about because I'm not trying to get in the man's pockets or tell Dak how much he should make or anything like that. And, I think it's weird that he's the only quarterback in the league that is viewed as a franchise guy that the deal didn't just get done.
Do you think the deal on the table is a pretty good deal for a fourth-round quarterback, or do you think that Dallas should cave a little bit and give him the years that he wants?
I think they should cave, but I understand their argument. Their argument is, look at Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, and when you look at their contract numbers, you've got to factor in the fifth-year option because they have fifth-year options that are super affordable. Then they have their 4-year extension. So over the life of those 5 years, the Cowboys are looking at they're making $28 million a year.
Yeah.
And you want 37, 38? And his agent's saying, no, they signed extensions at 33 a year. And so, yes, we want, as the market goes up, the market to go up. And so, I get everybody's point. But I also think if you're running a team, I'm not here to play games at the quarterback spot. You folded to the running back and paid him. DeMarcus Lawrence beat you in the negotiations, but
Yeah.
it's the quarterback that you want to
Yeah.
play hardball with?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
it is. It's a crazy situation.
Now,
going
Jeff,
on.
let me ask you this. I heard you guys talking about it today, you and Broadus, that, you guys are expecting the cap to actually not get bigger next year. It's going to actually shrink up to probably 30 to 40 million. Does that put pressure on all these teams, like the Mahomes that has to get signed, the Watson's going to get signed, Dak that's going to get signed? Does that put pressure on these teams?
Yeah, I just don't know in what way.
Yeah.
Because if you're the Cowboys, does the cost certainty of 2 franchise tags look better when you're not sure what the cap's going to look like?
Yeah.
And if you're Dak, you're not going to sign a deal at a discount because Jerry's worried about coronavirus and what it's going to do to the cap next year. Like, I'm not taking a discount because you're worried about the cap next year, because I know what you have to do with me. Worst case, I'm getting $69 million over the next 2 years on franchise tags.
Yeah.
So that's where it starts. And so, yeah, I think it adds another element of toughness to the negotiation, because the team, I don't think they mind him playing on the tag. Dak would rather not, but I'm not sacrificing on my demands because I know you have to tag me twice if we don't get a deal done.
And he can live out that deal just like Kirk Cousins did on the franchise tag.
Yeah, and once you do, you have all the leverage in the world, because
Yeah.
now you won't tag me again. And if you hit unrestricted free agency, wherever you think Dak ranks in the league, like, I think you could make a good case that he's anywhere from the 5th or 6th to the 11th best quarterback in the league.
That's actually
Yeah.
that's a good argument. That's a good one.
And wherever he is, if that hits the open market 2 years from now, you get $50 million a year. You get $150 million guaranteed. You smash contract records if that hits unrestricted free agency. So, that's why they're probably holding pretty firm to what they want.
That's a good point.
And if the cap does go down, who would have the money to actually sign a quarterback like that?
Not many.
Oh, I would have to look that up because I don't know people's cap situations. And then you also have to factor in how many teams are in the market, because right now it's kind of unique in the league that I feel like there's not very many teams that are looking. They've either just recently drafted a guy and are hoping it's the guy, or they have their guy, or they have a short-term answer and a young guy that they're hoping develops behind them.
Yeah.
So there's only a handful of teams, but still, unrestricted free agency with a franchise quarterback gets bonkers.
So if the cap does go down, there could be a fire sale of great players next year in the NFL that could walk, right?
Oh, especially considering, like, 2 teams off the top of my head. Eagles, $50 million over the cap next year, but if the cap actually goes down, they're $80 million over the cap.
I heard you guys saying that.
That's crazy.
Minnesota, and that's with guys already under contract and without signing the rookies. So, yeah, that's one team. And then the Vikings are screwed on the cap already this year, where they've had to let guys go, and it's just going to be even more next year. So,
And that would screw Minnesota. That would screw Minnesota, especially with Dalvin Cook sitting out. Like that's crazy to like put your mind around.
Now, Jeff, I have a question about the Cowboys defense. Everyone is saying that that's going to be the weakest part of the team, especially at the cornerback. Now, do you think ever since Richard came in, I think the cornerbacks, they kind of got screwed. They had to play his way. Do you think we're being a little hard on the cornerbacks because they are young? They actually Chidobe didn't play that bad his first year. It's when Richard got his hands on him. Do you think that could be a strong part of our team that we're overlooking?
I think it could become a strength. I think the only thing that I draw optimism about on this defense is, and this is short term, but I think they upgraded at defensive tackle with Gerald McCoy and Dontari Poe, which hopefully can help Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch play better, because last year they struggled in the interior, and I think that was part of why they struggled at linebacker. So I like that they upgraded there. The cornerback thing is kind of a wait and see with me to see. Trayvon Diggs, I bet, is going to be a starter. Hopefully a year from now, Reggie Robinson could be a starter. The Richard thing was weird, how strict they were on the techniques you can use, but I don't want to give the players excuses because it worked for Byron Jones.
Yeah, that's true.
Byron Jones was taught the same way, and Byron Jones was balling. I'm kind of wait and see on the secondary. My faith is going to be put more into the schematic part of it, because I think defensively they were very much like they were offensively. They were incredibly predictable.
Now,
Jeff Driscoll, Mitch Trubisky, Sam Darnold, those dudes were comfortable as hell because they knew what you show me is what you're doing. Yeah. And so you had even young, inexperienced quarterbacks who were looking up, and they're comfortable as hell back there against the Cowboys.
Yeah. Now, I heard Mike Fisher today on your show, and I heard you talking about on your YouTube channel about how we can get more sacks. What's more important, though, getting sacks or getting more pressure and stopping the run?
I'll go sacks just because, man, we ran these numbers the other day. It affects, like, your teams are punting. If you get a sack, they punt that drive.
Okay.
You know? So it's a drive killer.
It is. It definitely is.
It's just, the tough part about sacks, though, is that year to year they're unpredictable, whereas pressures will tell you how many sacks you're going to get the next year. It's really weird, right? That's the analytics on it. If you tell me how many sacks a guy had last year, and you say, okay, he had this many, which means next year he'll have the same amount, but you give me the amount of pressures that he had last year, I will predict much better than you will how many sacks the guy's going to have. So the pressures average out over time 2 sacks. Now, the end result, I want sacks.
Yeah.
But it tells you less about how, like, what's going to happen than getting pressure. But yeah, sacks are really, really important, and you're hoping that this year they'll get them schematically, you know, where you'll have better help for Tank on the inside, where, like, they were double teaming both defensive ends last year on almost every play.
Yeah.
And they were singling the D tackles who they weren't scared of at all. And so hopefully this year that's different.
Especially with the weapons you have now.
Yeah, and hopefully they're willing to actually blitz this year. Jordan Lewis had 4 sacks because every time he blitzed, he got a sack because the Cowboys never blitz.
Yeah, we haven't done that for years.
Yeah, they never blitz. But I think you'll see more of Jalen blitzing this year. I think you'll see trying to get pressure in different ways, and hopefully that leads to more pressure, more sacks, more picks.
Now my last question here for you. You know, I live in a divided household. Obviously, I get teamed up by my dad and my brother because they're Dallas fans. I'm a big Saints fan. I always put Michael Thomas easily in the top 3 receivers, but I get manhandled over here with he's only a short route guy. You know, it's only because of Drew Brees. I just want I want to hear from you what you think.
Jeff's the receiver guy here.
I want to hear what you think about Michael Thomas. Do you think he's a top 5 receiver? Do you think he's just a slant guy? You know, I want to hear it from you.
I think he's absolutely a top 5 receiver. I think he's absolutely a top 3 receiver. Who would be the top 3?
Probably Julio and
Hopkins.
You could go Julio and Hopkins. Odell Beckham, when he's healthy, I actually think is the best receiver in football.
Mike Evans is good.
Evans has Chris Godwin's good too.
Yeah.
I think Tyreek Hill is in the conversation just because of what his speed does to defenses. But yeah, I think Michael Thomas, you can't control. This is a Sean Payton thing. Sean Payton's teams, we did this today. The average depth of target on Sean Payton offenses is always in the bottom 10 to 12 in the league. That's just the way that their offense functions. It's not about Michael Thomas. It's about that offense.
Yeah.
But his success rate on literally every route in the league is above average.
Yeah.
When he goes deep, when he runs a post, when he runs a deep dig, he wins. You know, he wins all the time. The fact that he catches over 80% of his targets is insane.
It's mind blowing.
For a guy that everybody in the building knows, I'm going to throw it to him 15 to 20 times tonight, to still complete over 80% of the time you throw to him is insane.
And there's a stat.
It's hard for guys that aren't burners for people to give them their props. And with Michael Thomas, his yards per catch is low, but like it ain't his fault. If you asked him to run different routes, he'd win running those too. He's a monster.
He's sitting there smiling as you're saying all this stuff. But see, my whole argument was, like, if you put a Michael Thomas on a team that had another good receiver with him, he wouldn't have as many receptions as he had last year. You know, the ball.
Yeah, for the volume, for sure. For the number of catches, yeah. If you had more viable options, I mean, who was their second best receiver last year? Was it Traquan Smith? I don't even know.
No, wasn't their second best receiver the running back?
I always go with the argument too, though, is you go halfway down the season, Jared Cook's healthy again. Drew Brees is still throwing to Jared Cook. He's throwing to Alvin Kamara. He has other options. It's just, I mean, Michael Thomas is open and he plays the game. I mean, no receiver since 2017 has had 276 targets where he's a step or more ahead of the other player. Like for a big guy, he gets separated. He's a physical guy.
Oh, dude, yeah, he's a great route runner. He knows the nuance of the position. He'll never drop the ball. He's outstanding. Yeah, he's not a track star, but that dude just plays. It's like Larry Fitzgerald. That dude just plays receiver.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, do you think the Cowboys are going to regret giving Amari Cooper $20 million a year?
No, I don't, because I view this as a 2-year run.
Okay.
Right now, so Amari Cooper's deal is 5 for $100, right?
Mhm.
Throw that out the window because it's all made up. His deal is 2 years and $40 million. That's what his deal really is. And then the guaranteed money is up. And if you wanted to cut him or trade him, it would cost you nothing. So what I view it as is Michael Gallup's got 2 years left on his rookie deal. Amari Cooper has 2 years of guarantees, and CeeDee Lamb's on a rookie deal. 2 years from now, after 2 more seasons, the Cowboys will look around and go, okay, what do we want to do? What has Michael Gallup turned into? Do we want to tag and trade Michael Gallup? Do we want to extend him? Do we want to let him walk and pick up a comp pick? And if we want to keep and extend him, do we want to trade Amari Cooper, who now is 3 years and $60 million, none of it guaranteed, so teams will love that.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
I think it gives them great options 2 years from now to figure out who's going to stay around, who they're going to get something in return for, and how that's all going to work out. It's a 2-year, $40 million deal is what it is.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good
All right,
point.
Jeff, I know you've been gracious with your time. I have one more quick question for you. I know you put a lot of time in what brought us when you guys go over all the film and stuff when you do the mock draft. How much hours in a day do you actually put into that? Because you know what? You guys ramble off so many names. You guys seem like you know everyone in college. How much time do you put in to get to that point?
A lot. We try to watch every player that's invited to the combine, plus anybody else that our buddy Dane Brugler has a draftable grade on. So we fail in that every year because Dane Brugler with the Athletic is a freaking machine, and he watches like 1,000 players. But we'll get over 200 every year, sometimes up to 300. And to feel good about a player and grade him, I'll usually watch at least 3 games. Some guys you can get a feel for pretty quick and be like, all right, I know who he is. But, yeah, so 3 games per player. But I have top secret access to film, so watching a game takes 10 to 12 to 15 minutes. And watch 3. It's a lot. It's a lot of hours. But it's
a lot
fun.
of hours.
I love the draft. It's great.
Do you ever see yourself becoming like a guy that sits around and does that for a living?
No, they don't make money.
Okay.
No, you'd have to,
that's an easy answer.
You just had to give me the GM job, and you'd have to be an idiot to do that.
Yeah. But hey, Jeff, we appreciate your time, and you know what? I love the fact that you come out and you talk about your depression and anxiety. We live in a house where my wife, she battles anxiety every day. It's an ongoing thing, and you know, talking about it that really helps, and to see other people that are fighting it and battling it, you know, it opens up the eyes that it's just not us, it's other people, and I appreciate you coming out and talking about that.
Yeah, mental health is a mofo.
It is.
And I think for me, I take comfort, and I think a lot of people take comfort in just knowing that you're not alone. So I think being able to share that message where it's like, it doesn't matter, mental health, anxiety, depression, they don't give a crap how much you make, what your job is, how beautiful your spouse is. It doesn't care. It's one of the things that I'm really proud of, because I think a lot of people need to hear that. You are not alone.
That's a really good one, man.
Well, hey, again, thank you very much. I'll be tuning in. It sucks that you guys got changed on your hours, because I used to listen to you at work. Now I listen to you on the way home. Keep doing what you're doing, because you guys are reaching a lot of fans, especially up here.
Heck yeah, appreciate you guys.
All right.
Man, it was a blast. Have a good one.
All right, later on.
Later.
All right.
That was Jeff Cavanaugh of 105.3, the G-Bag Nation. I love listening to those guys.
It was a blast.
It was an awesome podcast. Love having people like that on.
You definitely seemed a little nervous at first.
Yeah, you know what? I look up to these guys. You know, I listen to them every day. I listen to them more than I listen to, like, athletes, talk. You know,
I get that.
You don't want to mess up. You want to be on your game. I think I was better than I was with Sean. You know, I really messed that up. But I love it, and we'll keep doing our thing. Got a couple more guests.
Hope you guys enjoyed this little segment we had here. We got another guest come on Thursday, and growing that little list of people coming on. So don't be afraid to share this. Love it. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of it. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day.
Peace out.
I'll see you.